Hello, and you're listening to the Book Was Better podcast, the podcast where we talk about the book of the film. I'm Luke.
I'm Paris.
And this week we're talking about Universal Soldier.
Hey you, put down the popcorn and turn on the light. It's gonna be alright, my friend. In the end, take my hand and trust me, the book was better.
Holy crap, so here we are, Paris, with a film from 1992. Looks like it was from 1982.
Yeah.
And I believe, am I right in thinking that neither of us had actually seen this before choosing to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw you'd mentioned the title and I was like, I'm going to just, look it up and see what it's about. And I read 2 sentences of the description. I was like, yep, I need it.
I kept thinking, oh yeah, it's about they're cops and they travel through time. No, that's Time Cop.
I thought it was Small Soldiers, which I also haven't seen, but I recognize, I remember I could see the DVD cover of Small Soldiers in my head and I was like, oh, that's fun.
I do have the junior novelization of that somewhere. And also, it's kind of a hard one because it is more like a pastiche of all those action films. Like, I think there's probably a bit of Time Cop. I don't know which one came first, but certainly there's a bit of Terminator and RoboCop with the memories.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a bit of everything. There's not much original in it. Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren star in this thing. In fact, there's only really 3 characters that you need to even know, and that's those 2 and a girl.
Token girl.
Token lady. Veronica, also called Ronnie.
Oh.
Which, in the book, which I didn't think was particularly attractive. You got Anakin being called Annie and Veronica being called Ronnie.
They could have maybe they wanted to cast the dude. Left it open.
Could do, because, well, that's maybe not so far-fetched, because something I found with the book is that this is a very homoerotic adventure.
Yeah, I found that.
Yeah, this is definitely a one-handed read if you're so inclined. There's also quite a bit. Now, I know I made me think of this because I just brought down the tone a little bit for a second there. And you're a high-class person. I don't mean that in high-class escort kind of context. I mean that, you're someone that doesn't use a lot of profanity. This book does use a lot of profanity, so you just let me know. If you're uncomfortable with that, if you want to, handball me the swears or whatever, you just take it how you want, because I did realise, and it's been a while since we've done one of these. It's certainly in the vein of those Terminator kind of novelizations where it's aimed at adults and it's about action and it's about gore and swearing and normally about sex. Although this one doesn't really kind of go in that direction. They
dance around it, which makes it more weird. They should just say it. They should just, you'll
get more into that as we go. Which, I was quite surprised. It's sort of almost like making an apple pie without apples. There's some things where I possibly live a bit of a sheltered life, but I was like, is that the writing, or do I not understand what is happening here? I don't know if it's a bit naive, or I'm going to blame the writing, but yeah. Yeah. What did you think? This is by Robert Tyne, and I don't think he does a bad job. It's not incredibly remarkable, but it's not one of those things where you're constantly going, oh my God, look at this thing. I think he just gets through it and, doesn't get too sullied by the process.
I mean, what could he do? He could be the best writer in the world and there's still this script that he's working with.
It's a very simple story too. He has actually written The Astronaut's Wife, is his most famous novel, and that was made into a film with Johnny Depp, I think.
Never heard of it.
But he's certainly a novelizationist expert. He's done both film and TV novelizations, which we're always looking for Book Was Better TV for our Patreon subscribers. He's done Jag 2 Clean Steel. Do you know Jag? It's about
the TV show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pilots, wasn't it? Hard Target, that was a Van Damme. Last Action Hero, I'd love to get hold of that. Beethoven 1 and 2, I'm pretty sure I have a Beethoven book somewhere. And back to the TV, Touched by an Angel. I definitely am interested in that.
He can do both. He can do the action manly man and Touched by an Angel.
I'd like you to show me on the dolly where the angel touched you. I remember, very... a lot of trigger warnings before that show. So, should we get straight into Universal Soldier then, and let's figure it all out as we go and see what happens. So, the beginning, there's sort of a prologue, which is quite long. I don't know how to say this. Tasso Lee in Vietnam, 1969. Snicker.
The sky over the jungle was a battlefield, a conflict of man and nature.
Mortar rounds and tracers struggled for control of the dark night, engaging in a noisy brawl with the rumbling thunder and the bright white lightning.
A warm, soaking rain poured into the dense, humid vegetation, turning the clammy jungle floor into a lake of sticky, inky mud.
That's good scene setting. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean. Like, he can write.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all fine. I actually cut the intro a little bit short because it then goes to focus on Witsy. Now, Witsy is, he's a grunt and he's like the sort of... They struck me as a bit of, game over, man, kind of guy. He's not important, because as we said, there's only 3 characters in this whole thing that you have to care about. And I thought, let's not get attached to Witsy, because he's on his way out. So we don't need to learn about him. But he does meet up very quickly with a friend, who's also his platoon leader, PFC. I don't know what PFC stands for. Oh, Private First Class, I'm guessing.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'll believe you.
I'm pretty good at this. Luke, L-U-C, I should investigate that. Devereaux, played, of course, by Jean Claude... John? Or is he John? Jean? Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Well, it looks like Jean, but it's Jean?
Jean-Claude Van Damme?
John?
Let's just call it Van Damme, son.
Yeah.
The JCFD, I like to call him. Sorry, the F is my fucking that I added. Jean Claude. I just put fucking damn. I didn't even put the Van Damme. Van Damme, son. And this first bit of dialogue is a perfect example of what is to follow. And like I said, if you get a word you don't want, just handball it. I'll put it in.
I can do this.
I think it's fine when you're reading a piece of literature. And this is literature.
Yes, definitely.
It's not your words. You're, reading the text. If we were in a play and I had to say, something questionable, that would be the character, not me.
Definitely. Witsy struggled in the mud, trying to break free of Luke's grasp. "Let me go," he hissed, his eyes wide with fear. "We got to get out of here. Let me go. They're dead. We got to get the fuck out of here."
Yes, very clear, I think, what his motivations is. And that's great when you're very clear on what a character wants. This script is awful, and it was co-written by Dean Devlin. And this film was directed by Roland Emmerich, who did, the team behind Independence Day and The Day After Tomorrow and all those sorts of things.
Big ones.
Yeah, I guess this almost feels like an audition for that, because this doesn't feel like an expensive movie by any stretch. And this is what we know about All-American Soldier Van Damme.
Luke was Cajun from deep in the Louisiana Bayou country, and although his family had been in the United States for 5 generations, he and every one of his relatives spoke with the soft French accent characteristic of his people.
And if you believe that, I have a couple of bridges I would like to sell you, that he's a, 5th generation American. It's funny that they even try and justify that, because that's one of those things about Schwarzenegger movies. They never do.
Yeah, but even, why... It's the book. So he doesn't even need to mention it. Because the actor's not reading it, So it's just...
Sweep it under the rug.
Yeah.
Pretend it never happened. It's one of those funny things. I think in American film, especially in the past, if anybody's not American in it, people make comments about it, and there's usually some sort of racial stereotype taunt or something like that. But they never did that to Schwarzenegger. Schwarzenegger, you couldn't understand 1 in 5 words. And everyone would just act like, yep, he's just one of us.
Well, maybe that's why they did it. They were like, you can't tease this guy because he's actually American. He's 5th generation. You can't tease him because of his accent.
He is a Cajun, like Gambit. Yeah. So this dialogue, here are some more highlights. "Shit," said one of the soldiers. "This is very bad shit. Very bad." Notice they don't say much, but they at least say each thing 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
"We have to stay together," cautioned Luke. "Shit on that," said the first soldier and ran. And "Why the fuck not, man? You heard Witsy. They're dead, man." And that's true. Witsy did say that quite a few times. It should have sunk in. So the men are all pretty much at their witsy's end, but none more so than Sergeant Andrew Scott, played by Dolph Lundgren. And we sort of get this insight that he's been taking this whole war very badly. So I asked you how you were with the swears. Now, this is horrible racial slurs from the past.
Oh.
You can just do the first. I'll do the second one if you like.
Okay. Luke had watched Scott closely when he heard the lieutenant's pronouncement.
Scott had continued eyeing the villagers malevolently and mumbling darkly about slopes and gooks and how they were all VC. Now, he's definitely racist in the film.
Yeah.
But even this seems like a little bit, gilding the lily a little bit. You didn't have to put 2 in there.
Yeah.
Like, you could have just gotten it across. You're just talking about indistinct muttering. But old Robert Tyne just went for broke.
He got on the board with the repetition thing and he took it too far.
It's an ugly book and an ugly film. Really. There's something sort of just filthy about the whole affair. And they were, like, these are 80s action films. I know this is a 90s film, but it's very much a relic of that. Were really just scuzzy, ugly films filled with, like, just horrible cruelty and stuff. Like, you think about, like Murphy getting blown apart in RoboCop or something, and just the way people talk to each other. Yeah, they're kind of nasty, and this is definitely probably one of those last films.
Yeah, it felt really dated, and I think as soon as I started watching it, I was like, when was this made? Because, I would have guessed early, like mid-80s, but yeah, it's sort of...
It's that kind of film where dialogue's not important, but then 2 years later you've got like Pulp Fiction and probably Reservoir Dogs around this time, and suddenly dialogue is very important.
It's like, you can do better, guys.
Yeah. Although I guess, Dolph Lundgren and Van Damme, they're not the most eloquent people.
They weren't hired for this for their ability to express emotion and words and things like that.
Or even wear costumes in Van Damme's case, as we will find out. So Luke enters the village where Scott is. He's being very cautious because Scott has left some very interesting clues to his state of mind.
The face had been mutilated beyond recognition, slashed in a murderous frenzy. Then he noticed that both ears had been hacked off, slashed from the skull. Quickly, he looked around to the other corpses, American and Vietnamese, and saw that they had been mangled, each stripped of ears.
All the ears are gone. So there's definitely a sort of relish in this kind of writing. We've seen this in a lot of these action books aimed at adults, that they are very gory. They're taking that pleasure. They're sort of taking the same pleasure that, like, say, J.K. Rowling might take talking about it at dinner. When they describe all the food or whatever. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when it's that sort of, like, you're supposed to get a kind of perverse kick out of it. And I find that, kind of weird.
Yeah. It's not really ever explained as well, like... It's just like, let's chuck this in because that'll surprise people.
I think, like, in Vietnam, that happened. There were people that were taking ears as trophies. But the thing is, like, wouldn't that kind of be not so fun after? I don't know how long it takes an ear to smell. And I know ears, we think of them for hearing, not smelling. But they would start to smell after, I would think, it's a hot, humid jungle.
Yeah.
We've got all those ears around.
Would... Like This might be a really dumb question. Once the ear starts to get old, would the cartilage be left like bone would be, or would that just like disintegrate as well?
I've got no idea. He has a pretty fresh supply of ears.
Yeah.
I don't know if he rotates them like, like milk at a supermarket or what, or if he just sort of hangs on to them.
And that's why he keeps killing people. Keep his supply.
I wonder if you could like lacquer them or something and get a bit of extra mileage out of them.
Do you reckon? I mean, I don't know, because I know I forgot his Daryl in The Walking Dead does that.
Oh, okay.
He goes he gets stuck in the jungle and kills all these zombies and then takes their ears and puts them on a necklace. I don't know, because when he did that, I was like, that's a badass thing to do. It just seems so much like this.
Yeah, well, infection is another thing, and I would think like zombie infected ears, that's even worse, right?
It's just, and I mean, fashion-wise.
Yeah, then you've got I think he's got like different ears for different seasons.
Oh, okay.
So Luke quickly finds there's a bound Vietnamese boy and girl at the village, and there is Andrew Scott himself, Dolph Lundgren, He-Man.
Jesus Christ, Sarge. Luke stumbled back a pace or two. Hanging around Scott's neck was a string of severed ears, a dozen of them, maybe more, each leaking blood onto his dirty fatigues. In an earthen pot at his feet were more ears floating in a bloody puddle.
Yeah, you should see his Etsy store. Fantastic.
Well, like we said, the fashion statements are coming back.
He alternates them with beads sometimes. It kind of depends what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I'm looking for a kind of evening ear. Something like that.
And you could put fancy earrings in the ear.
Now that would be very confusing to see an ear hanging from, or a string of ears hanging from somebody's ears. But then, is that any different from like putting glasses on? Really, when you think about it, like it's almost like prosthetic eyes on top of your eyes. Why not dangle other people's ears under your ears?
I mean, yeah. All the better to hear you with.
Yeah, that's right. And, well, look, that's something I feel sorry for those people without ears talking glasses. It'd be a very difficult time keeping them on.
Keeping
the glasses on, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, nothing to hook them to.
Well, they're dead as well, so.
That's true. So Scott calls Luke a traitor and tells him to execute the boy and girl, and when Luke refuses...
The bullet smacked into the centre of the boy's forehead, opening an ugly red wound, then blew out the back of his head in a hideous mess of bone and hair.
Yeah, he keeps going that extra mile, like more than he probably needs to. And it's really cruel in the film.
Yeah.
The book is probably even worse because it makes it sound like they're children. In fact, I think it even says that they're children, and he just blows their head off one. And then the girl, she runs, she hightails it out of there. And Scott, also probably all-American, probably plays a lot of baseball and stuff, pitches a grenade perfectly at her. And, I guess this happens. There was a flash and an explosion, and the girl simply disappeared. The shards of hot metal scything her thin body into 100 pieces.
Wow.
He did stop and count them all as well. So this tableau of violence, it draws to its logical conclusion when Luke and Scott, they basically just shoot the shit out of each other. They both appear to die, but then a covert military team shows up and puts their bodies literally on ice. And me watching this for the first time, I'm scratching my beard. I'm thinking something's up here. I don't think it's the last we've seen of Luke and Scott.
It would be a short film.
It would.
That was actually the part, like I said, I read a few sentences and I was like, yeah, I'll do this, about the movie. And it was like... two soldiers, something in the, in war, and then it was like, and then they proceed to shoot each other and to death, and I was like, yep.
Yes.
Got me.
Yeah, these are two angry dudes. Like, forget bloody Superman versus Batman or Tony Stark versus Captain America. Luke and Scott. God, that's where it was in 92. Now, this is like a year before Jurassic Park, or is it the same year as Jurassic Park? Might be the same year as Jurassic Park. That's pretty depressing for these guys who made it.
Yeah.
All right, we cut to present day, 1992, a day where the military sent each other faxes, and if you wanted to call someone, you had to find a phone booth or go into a motel. So in Nevada, a plane arrives, and I'm thinking, all right, what's in this big plane? It's a big plane. Plane opens, truck comes out. It's a big truck.
Inception.
Yeah, and now I'm like, well, it's like the turducken of transport, basically. I'm expecting then a car to come out, like a little car to come out of the truck, and then a whole heap of clowns to come out of the little car. Close. It's the Unisol... the Unisol shortening of Universal Soldier.
Yeah, it didn't click, like, for a while, and then I was like, oh, Universal Soldier. Like, it took way too long.
Unisol sounds like a hemorrhoid cream or something like that. Better go get some Unisol. I'm flaring up again. Too close to Anusol. It's the Unisol Command and Transport Center, or the UCTC, where former PFC JC FVD likes to hang out. And this is all watched over by Colonel Worth Perry, who I think is the only other character I kind of felt was worth mentioning, but it turns out that wasn't the case. But what's inside this truck? That's the question. It's not a clown car. I was wrong about that. Instead...
In the glass-encased room stood a row of naked men, big like sides of beef in a meat locker. They were massive individuals, broad-shouldered and pumped up with bulging muscles and sinews like steel cables.
This sounds like a regular party wagon, doesn't it?
It's like Captain America meets Magic Mike.
Yeah, they were just touring around the desert, going to hens nights and putting on a show in this glass bus, in their glass container.
I can dig that.
Yeah. They were wearing cuffs and collars, but no shirts. And that was it. But no, unfortunately, they do get dressed. They put on all their fatigues, and each one has a very special implement, which I think took up quite a bit of the budget.
The technician fussed over the details of the man's uniform, fitting him with an elaborate high-tech piece of headgear. It looked like a micro-sized video camcorder, the viewfinder fitting it neatly over the soldier's left eye.
I thought it kind of looked like a teabag strainer or something.
I love, like, now, like, if this was made now, you wouldn't even think to describe, or you'd just be like, it's technology, just trust it. Like, it's, you know, we can invent stuff. And you just, even if it's not invented now, you trust that things like that can exist, where this is like, wow, guys, it's like this, it's like a micro camcorder. Yeah. This is what it does.
It's like a prehistoric GoPro.
It's like, trust us. Like, we know science.
Yeah, and it looks like shit in the film. Like, the footage that's coming back off these things is very VHS-y. But, I thought this was a bit odd.
The next soldier presented himself for inspection. A black guy of bruising size.
Oh, look out, ladies, at that hens night. Have some bruises tomorrow. Ow! Yikes. Of bruising size. I don't know if that's a compliment or not.
Is that, like, a thing? Is that an actual description? I've never heard that.
No, I haven't. It gets your mind going, though, doesn't it? Yeah. I will warn you. This is our third date. I am of bruising size. This ice isn't for the champagne. So, look who is also among the ranks of Universal Soldiers. Can you believe it?
It was Luke Devereaux. He was the same age he had appeared in 1969. He looked as he had always looked, and yet different. His handsome face had a hardened and motionless expression, like an automaton brought to life in some mad doctor's mountain lab. Next up was Andrew Scott, unaged, unemotional, hard, tough-looking, robotic, but nonetheless a human being alive.
You know, it really was a grand era in the 80s and I guess now 90s as well, where all we wanted to see in movies were huge muscle men pretending to be robots.
It's such I think this is a theme for this, like, it's just a power fantasy of you know what I mean? Like, it's just this male power fantasy. Well, you're a man. I don't know.
That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me.
But it's just like, I don't know, it's got to be something like that where it was just this idea of like being this Superman that was attainable-ish.
Yeah, it's a weird one though, isn't it? Because I can kind of, I see that, but, and I think all sort of genre films survive by the power fantasy still. I think, Iron Man is more successful than Superman because you want to be that guy. You want to be the billionaire playboy who wears a car essentially and then can take it off and womanize and stuff like that. Whereas Superman walks out in his costume and you're like, yeah, no, I don't want to wear that.
Yeah.
But everyone wants to wear the car. And James Bond, of course, is the obvious one.
Yeah.
But these guys, they've got that physique and they certainly have that power thing where, and we see it all the time, like it'll happen later in this movie, they get taunted into action and we know they're going to win. They're going to clean up the fight. Anyone threatens them, challenges them, they have the power to crush that person.
Yeah.
But there's no personality there. There's nothing to sort of hitch your wagon to. I don't know why you would want to be like this emotionless nothing. And certainly when you're talking about a robotic character, these guys aren't robots, but they're sort of brainwashed. They're sexless characters.
Yeah.
Like, and the Terminator literally is like a sexless character. I don't know if he's got like a prosthetic sort of tube or something just to fill out his pants in the right place. But just maybe like, to release oil or whatever he has to do. But so it seems like a weird fantasy.
I guess like maybe if that was, more attainable to people who were not charismatic people, like, so maybe it's more attainable because they're like, oh, these guys, they're just like, I don't express emotion.
Strong silent.
Yeah. I don't know.
Because I think we're going to get that again with, DC may or may not be making their Cyborg movie. And that's, again, you've got this sort of young black guy who should be like just a sexual dynamo who has all of that stripped away from him. And suddenly is like a robot body. I think that's kind of weird. I don't know. Maybe I have to think about that because I can't figure out, who that is talking to. That's my biggest question about this film / book is who is it aimed at? Because there are constant moments like the lingering on all the naked male bodies and stuff where I'm thinking this is a genre, especially 92. We're talking, over 20 years ago, which I think it definitely would have been aimed at men. Yeah. Obviously there's crossover, most people of that time absorbed everything that was happening and Aliens fans and all that. But that stuff has more wider appeal than this does. But who is it aimed at? Because I thought for sure, like, we were going to see Veronica's boobs at some point. That's just that sort of checklist for that kind of film. But it doesn't do that. It's not even that kind of film. It's really about them. And that's a difference to, obviously, all the superhero stuff and everything now, they play both. They cater to the female gaze as well. Every buff superhero guy is going to take his shirt off at some point. Even like Chris Pratt took his shirt off. Yeah. So, you're always going to get that. And I do feel like that's more aimed at a female audience. I do think there's a kind of male thing in certain areas. It does nothing for me. I see it and just think it's like Alien. I think like they're a completely different species to me. Like that's not something that, I feel like, it's just something completely different. It's like a giraffe looking at an elephant or something. Probably the other way around. But, I do feel that there are those bodybuilder types or, that are interested in that sort of thing and fitness and stuff that look and go, oh, look at Thor, he's massive, like, that's awesome. I don't know, this sort of seems to cross a line for me that goes a little bit beyond that. And we'll get to those scenes. Maybe I'm jumping ahead. But, I think these are all very interesting. So, these killing machines, they've been deployed to take out terrorists who are holding 30 hostages inside the McKinley Dam. And it's being reported on by Ronnie, our third character, Veronica, who's basically cribbing notes on the story from the radio on her way to the site.
She was a reporter, and a good one, and in her head she kept meticulous files of recent disasters, catastrophes, mishaps, and murders.
Wait, whoa, hang on. Don't tell me how competent she is at her job. I want to know, is she hot? And the book does not answer that question. It does not provide a physical description.
She's just a grey space in my head. I can't even picture her because I don't know what she looks like.
Yeah, whole introductory scene. We know nothing about how beautiful and blonde she is. We don't know anything about her boobs at all. I thought this was an adult novelization. And she does, does the report and then's fired from her job. I'm presuming that's because she wasn't hot enough, am I right? But yeah, it's so weird because you start reading this book and having read all the Terminators and Total Recalls and everything we've done in the past, I go, I know what this book is. And I was looking forward to, she's going to come in and we're going to get the really seedy description of her. And they don't do that. And that's a credit that he doesn't do that he focuses on her work and why she's there.
And how she loves thinking about disasters and catastrophes.
Yeah. He sells it too much, actually, because he says she's so good and then she's fired. And it's like, well, she's so good. Why do they're so tired of her? 'Cause she's turning up late and being kind of arrogant and smoking and stuff. So they get rid of her. I thought, for a moment, I was like, oh, smoking hot? No, she's just smoking cigarettes. Which are hot at the end, but it's still not the same thing. So, it doesn't do that. But then later on, it's going to linger on those naked men. So it's like, well, who is this for? Where am I? Odd for a book, this kind of book from 20-odd years ago. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a weird thing. And I guess that's it. The guys here are just turned on by violence.
Bullets slammed into the heads of the gunmen, dropping them silent and dead to the metal floor. In the Universal Soldier command truck, Garth saw the bullets strike home and shook his fist in the air like a football fan whose team had just scored.
He had not been this jubilant since his grandmother's funeral. There was blood everywhere and he was loving it. Loving it!
He's got popcorn.
Yeah. He was like, haha, I like to see the face on their families when they get the news. And Luke, he kicks the problem in the neck. And I like that. Van Damme, I think this guy, I know two things about him. I know he does the splits and he likes to kick things and does not disappoint. With a vicious kick, Luke slammed his foot into the neck of one of the goons, snapping his spine like a wishbone. I wonder what he wished for.
I don't remember this from the movie, but is the guy standing or is he on the ground? Because I imagine this guy standing and just getting kicked in the throat.
Oh, look, he can definitely reach a throat with one of his kicks. He's a high kicker, so I think definitely, goes for the throat for sure. I bet he wished for some sweet kicks.
More kicks,
yeah. But then Scott sees a male and female Japanese tourist, and he has a sort of geographically incorrect Nam flashback, and sort of racially insensitive flashback, and nearly dispatches them. And this causes concern from Luke, and they kind of break out of the mission for a little bit. So, everyone back in the bus is like, oh, what's going on? This is an anomaly. Sort of like when Murphy started remembering who he was in RoboCop, and, it's like, oh,
how could this possibly go wrong?
Why did we not think of this? So, but anyway, the crisis is over. The soldiers get naked again. They get repaired. And they get a little memory clearance injection. I put this in just because it sounded hot at the beginning.
The shaft jabbed hard into the soft tissue of their brains. They experienced no pain whatsoever.
The shaft jabbed hard into the soft tissue. Yes. It's part of my Luke and Scott fanfic. But remember Veronica, she's not giving up. She might have lost her job, but she has not lost her spirit. So at night, she sneaks in to photograph the Unisol truck. And she photographs the bullet-ridden body of one of the soldiers, and he wakes up. And so she realizes something is amiss. So her and her cameraman, Huey, who I didn't think was worth mentioning either, they run. But Luke and Scott get put on the case to come and grab them. But then...
Without a word, Scott pumped a single shot into Huey's head, the force of the impact picking him up and throwing him against the smashed Wagoneer. He was dead before he hit the ground.
Wagoneer was kind of like the National Lampoon Vacation car.
So specific. Veronica heard herself screaming, but it seemed to come from far away. The same scream roused something in Luke. As Scott aimed his weapon at Veronica, Luke saw himself raising the butt of his weapon and smashing into Scott's cheekbone, knocking him down. It was as if he were in the past and present at the same time, watching history and reenacting it at the same time. As Andrew Scott toppled, Luke Devereaux grabbed Veronica by the arm and ran.
And that is our setup. So now we can relax, because basically the rest of this story, it's Luke and Veronica on the run, having random encounters with a vengeful Andrew Scott, who goes rogue. So, yeah, that's the thing. And look, yeah, even I don't know, it almost feels like there's something a bit kind of homoerotic about their whole power thing seems to always be about shooting people in the head, pumping a shot into them and, like, taking them out.
Yeah.
You know? And that happens so often in this thing. People are... It's not all kicks. I wish it was.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of just, shooting people, executing people, and that little sort of sexy power rush that comes from taking a human life. It might be just me reading into it, I'm not sure. This is interesting, though. In the original script I read on IMDb, and obviously as well in this book, it was different. The military were actually behind the terrorism, and that ended up all being cut from the film because they didn't want to show the Americans in a bad light. The idea that they were sort of doing a conspiracy.
That's sort of a bit... That's then the one thing about the film that would be before its time.
Yeah.
Because that's quite common now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it was the Americans
all along. Yeah. You got to watch them, don't you? Give them an inch, they'll take a mile, because they don't know shit about the metric system. Stafford Industries wants these guys turned into American heroes. American heroes means you kill a lot of people and do what you want. And that's just what we're going to do. This whole charade is a goddamn promotional tour designed to make the Unisol program untouchable. Charade? Then who were the people in the dam, asked Garth. I don't know who Garth was. The terrorists? I think it was Garth from Wayne and Garth. Some thugs from Vegas, snapped Colonel Perry. Told them it was part of an exercise. Paid them too. Told them they wouldn't get hurt. So that is undeniable proof for the Universal Soldier truthers. Finally, it's out. I've seen their YouTube videos. They're very compelling. The terrorists are shown gunning down a hostage, however.
Yeah.
So they really were taking the act to heart. I guess they were just like, kill one or two of them. It's $5 an hour. We'll provide lunch.
It's
in the back of our giant green truck.
Yeah, I find it really interesting because you don't get that vibe from the film at all. That would even be...
Yeah, possible.
Yeah.
No, they definitely must have shot additional things or shot or decided to shoot it the other way because, the terrorists are pretty terroristy. I don't know if they're like just an improv troupe that were on their way to LA or anything like that. So Veronica cannot figure out this classic fish out of water Luke as they drive to safety, and he does have quite a nasty injury.
Veronica winced when she saw the gaping bloody hole. The lighter
needed a little bit of Unisol.
The lighter popped back out and Luke grabbed it. Without pausing, he jammed the hot point into the wound and the scalding metal seared his flesh. There was a crackle as some of the shredded skin burned away, and there was a whiff of the smell of meat broiling.
Yeah, does that count as a hamburger reference? Is that the first hamburger of the book?
They are pretty much walking hamburgers, so yeah.
That's kind of both what I was talking about, mixing that sort of, relishing the violence and kind of that sort of torture porn style, like getting out there, but also what I was talking about describing a delicious meal. It kind of combined in that paragraph because I was like, oh, this is gross. And then I was like, I can smell that Van Damme meat. The Van Damme burger. So they hole up in a seedy motel with quite the guy at the manager there was quite a character.
Yeah, unnecessarily mean.
Yeah. Do you know, I looked him up on IMDb and his name is Robert Trebor, which I think is interesting because Trebor is Robert backwards.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you reckon it's his real name?
It's not.
Oh.
But what a scamp, eh?
Classic Robert.
Classic Trebor. So, they're in the motel. They're just trying to get a phone, basically, because no one had mobile phones, of course, in 1992. And Veronica sees on the news that she's been framed for the murder. So that's justifying her reason for staying with Luke, because otherwise you would get the shit out of there. Meanwhile, Luke is burning up. He's sweating. He hasn't been on ice for a while. So he just decides to walk around outside in the car park completely naked. Lots of gratuitous arse shots. And I feel like this was such a nod to, like, Terminator, of walking around showing your bum.
Yeah.
And I also feel like maybe I'm thinking of, like, Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse showing off his bum. It was like man bum was a kind of
There's not enough man
a
bum
big thing
these
in it.
days.
Not a lot of man bum. It's all like chests and abs and stuff.
Yeah.
You don't get in the Marvel movies. You don't get like Captain America showing his bum.
Ah, that would be nice though. Like it would just be because you basically see it in those tight.
That's true.
I'm allowed to objectify them.
I feel like he's kind of well. Look, it's your time. You guys have been silent for a long time. And let it all out. It's all pent up in there. Yeah, I know. I feel like I've seen Chris Pratt's bum when he was fat, but not when he was. Like, isn't there in that? Is it movie 42 or something? He does a whole thing where he's just got explosive diarrhea.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the 10
that
best explosive diarrhea scenes. Of course, Jamie Lannister had a great one in The Other Woman, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that actually genuinely made me laugh in movie 42. That was the only scene that I broke a smile at, but
Something made me laugh in that. I can't remember what it was. But yeah.
it's a ridiculous movie.
It was, and we don't condone it. So back to Universal Soldier. Yes, walking around naked.
Veronica turned to break free and saw his state of undress. Her jaw dropped and her eyes grew wide. She looked him up and down. "What the hell are you doing?" The motel owner, standing in the open doorway of the office, wondered more or less the same thing. He leaned back into the building, gesturing and calling to his wife. "Verna, come here. You ain't gonna believe this one." A moment later, she joined her husband and looked covetously
Yeah.
at the handsome naked man. My, she said with a happy smile.
Does that count as our first hot dog reference, do you think? Yeah, Van Damme. I don't know. I always feel like surely these big muscle men have tiny little shriveled steroid-abused parts.
I don't think about that.
You know, I think, yeah. I think he's got a tiny one. I think it looks like a gnome hiding in a bush without his hat. So Veronica puts him in ice. Then she tries to use the manager's phone, but it's not working. Now, in the book, he just explains that the line must be down. He says that happens quite a bit. In the film, he claims that women don't know how to use phones. Now, I remember 1992, and women did not know how to use phones, that's for sure. Because they had numbers on, and you had to dial them.
Well, that's why I'm so glad they have touchscreens now, because it just makes so much more sense for me. I can figure it out. I don't have to, there's no separate, like, ear bit and then the number bit. Like, it's just, it needs to be one thing. Otherwise,
you had to be ambidextrous.
Yeah, because otherwise, like, I'd just put my ear to the numbers, I'd put the handle.
Yeah, I'd be like, Mum, you're dialing, but you haven't picked up the receiver yet. Or sometimes, women are easily distracted. So they'd be, they'd dial a couple of numbers. And the thing would, if it was a 9 or something, it would go right around on the dial. And then, like, a bird would fly past the kitchen window or whatever, and it'd be like, what's that? And then never finish the number.
And I think the reason why they made it and never taught women how to use phones in 92 was because how women talk so much, and obviously it was cost a lot to use a phone.
Yes.
So I think it was just about saving money in the home.
Yeah, people don't realise that a local call back in 92 was it's probably about $27 a minute, and the average wage there was about $4.95. So you really had to put in a good innings, maybe a bit of overtime if you were going to call someone. So
I'm glad they put that in the film then, because it makes it gives context to the time, and
And I don't mind as a man, like, and even back then, I'll take the garbage out, I'll
Yeah.
change a light bulb, I'll change a tyre. You imagine me changing a tyre. Can't even drive.
I wasn't going to say anything.
And then I would just lift up the back of the car. So yeah, and I wouldn't mind making a call if it need be.
Thank
Set
you.
it up, hold the receiver, go on the numbers. Yeah. So yes, fuck you, book. Women assuredly knew how to use phones. The Unisols attack the motel, so it is escape time.
His neighbours, the Asian couple who had seen Luke naked a few minutes before, were under the covers of their bed until a few minutes before, when the machine gun barrage opened up, they had been making love. Now, naked under the sheets, they peered apprehensively at Luke as he burst through the walls.
Now look, this is the perfect fantasy. Let's think about this for a moment. You're out in the car park with your sweetie, and you see this like big naked damn man, and it's obviously made you so horny that you rushed within minutes in bed,
Yeah.
giving each other the business, because you've seen this guy naked. And it stirred something in both of them. Maybe he's one of those fitness enthusiasts we talked about.
Yeah.
And they are going at it. And then just when they're both probably imagining him while they're doing it, just minutes later. And then he bursts through the wall like the Kool-Aid man. and it's like, that's a dream come true.
That, that's perfect. You couldn't wish for more.
Well, there is more because the Unisols have attacked. Luke and Veronica get into bed with them and hide so close to them that when they do their scanning, they think the heat signatures, they think there's just like 2 people in the bed when there are actually 4 people in the
This
bed.
is fan fiction.
Incredibly compressed.
That's feels like a fan fiction trope, like how it's, set up, and it's like people have to hide in a bed
Yeah,
together because of heat signatures.
Well, this is the thing. My suspension of disbelief was going fine. Everything so far seems pretty above board to me. It all checks out. But then this thing, that's what I don't buy. He's a big dude.
Yeah.
4 people in the bed, only 2 heat signatures.
Yeah.
I think it would be the other way, because if he is as endowed as Veronica seems to suggest later on, I would think they think there's 5 people in the bed. I would have thought that Van Damme's Man-Ham would have created its own heat signature.
Yeah.
Under the covers, and they would have been like, "Oh, there's a baby with it. There is a toddler down there with them in this thing.
Oh.
Maybe a medium-sized dog, or like a bear cub or something. You know? Okay, so except the rogue Scott, he does kill this poor couple. A moment
They went
later.
out doing what they wanted.
That's true, doing what they loved. But Luke and Veronica do manage to escape yet again, and the hotel owners, they get picked off as well.
He was sexist, so.
True.
Suddenly, he squeezed it off 2 quick rounds, blowing the motel owner and his wife away. 2 clean shots to the head. They fell in a jumble of arms and legs.
Yeah, that's the real question. Why was this couple keeping a jumble of arms and legs under the counter?
I was just, ever since you said about the writing and, I just can't stop picturing everything really dirty. And I'm not like that. I'm
They're
not
entwined. Neither am I, Paris. That's the thing. This has brought out it's something very untoward happening here. Like I said, it's a very grubby book. So, page 121 seems to be preoccupied with the fact that there is a Pepsi cooler outside the gas station. So preoccupied, it uses the word Pepsi 3 times, even though no character touches or drinks any Pepsi. So, Unisol, fueled by Pepsi, is the message I get there. Just like, and people who have seen the film will know what I'm talking about. How can you watch Captain America Civil War and not crave a Milo?
I haven't seen it yet.
There's a big Milo billboard that flashes up
Really?
early on.
Isn't Milo just Australian though?
The billboard's in Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's weird. I'll
Yeah.
keep an eye out.
We'll talk about something about that afterwards. Okay, so Luke drags Veronica into a room, gets naked again, demanding she explore his body for a tracking device.
He was totally nude now, completely unself-conscious about his nakedness. He placed her hands on his bare chest.
Again, who is this for? It's not a booby movie, it is all man flesh. Suddenly her hands closed around something that was large and male. Her eyes widened. Wow, the size of this thing. Now that's odd, right? Mm-hmm. Because she's seen it already. She saw it in the car park.
Far away.
But she didn't comment on it then. Now she's commenting. So I think, is he suddenly... Has it grown? Is it big enough? Is he just standing there with an erection and he's not even realising it? Luke looked puzzled. Drape a towel over it or something. That is not supposed to be there. Veronica could not help staring at the organ in her grasp, feeling a couple of years of hormone build-up flustering her. Her cheeks were burning bright red. I know, she stammered. This is just fine. Nothing wrong with that. Far from it. So again, he's going that extra mile. That's what I mean. It's kind of a throwaway joke in the film, whereas he's really got inside her head and really made a meal out of her handling the Van Damme manhand. And he doesn't need to. So it's you didn't dwell on her at all. You didn't describe that she was this attractive blonde reporter. She is attractive. But you're really going for broke when it comes to this thing.
Yeah, but it's about, I don't know. I don't feel I didn't feel as a straight female watching this any oh, hello. Even if it was made now, the way they're presented isn't appealing to me. Even the way he's just naked. Just keep stripping down. To me, I'd be oh my God, run.
Yeah, there's nothing, there's no, but that's the thing, there's no charisma or anything there, is there? It's it's really weird, and it's forced as well. It's making you go, you can tell they're going, isn't he attractive? Isn't he awesome? And you're no, it hasn't sold. I think it would be awesome if he, when he does that splits thing with his legs in a lot of films, he's got a foot on each chair and he's just hanging, if he did that. While she inspected him. I reckon that'd be easier to give him a thorough inspection. They could go to the garage and get one of those little wheelie trolley things that mechanics lie on, and he could just do the splits and she could just slide under it. I'm going to stop.
I read that that's not supposed to be there line as a statement, not a question. And that's why I was really confused, because I thought he was oh, that's not supposed to be there. And I was what? Where is it? I was just and now I realize it's a question.
It's not supposed to be there. They moved it a foot upward to accommodate my armour.
Yeah, makes sense now. That's what I was really confused about.
If you think of that, look, I've said this before on the podcast, I'm sure, but that's what freaks me out about centaurs. Because there you are, you're this manly, muscular man, but on your crotch, you're just smooth like a Ken doll, and your dick's 1.5 meters behind you.
Yeah.
That would freak me out.
I mean, being a horse would freak me out.
That too would be weird. Okay, everyone relax. That he's got his clothes on for the rest of the... Now we're just back to action. We've no more dirty things. So, and it's repetitive now, isn't it? I started losing interest here, both in the film and the book. Basically, we just get into this circle of Unisol attacks, gunfire, explosions. There's bobbing Pepsi bottles again. Luke and Veronica escape, and this just keeps happening. They get attacked, they escape, they get attacked, they escape. But remember Colonel Perry.
GR13, you better get your ass in gear. I'm gonna. Sergeant Andrew Scott never found just how horrible Colonel Perry's threat would be. Smoothly, in one motion, he drew his Colt 45 automatic and fired once, the bullet hitting Perry square in the right eye, throwing the Colonel's body against the truck. He died in mid-heartbeat. Andrew Scott holstered his pistol and walked toward the body, unsheathing his Bowie knife as he went. There was almost a spring in his step.
I think there's going to be some new items added to his Etsy stall for the fall.
He's getting more specific about where people are getting hit and how they're dying. So before it was in the cheekbone and someone died before they hit the floor. Now it's right eye and mid heartbeat.
It is really weird. Again, there's something weird about this, like, power. Because that's the other thing. It doesn't... Dolph Lundgren is this big muscular dude. You would think he'd be, like, tearing people's arms off and hitting them with them or snapping their necks.
Anyone can shoot someone.
But he's just shooting people in the head. God, like, most American high schoolers can manage that. So, we did get a burger after all. Luke is at a truck stop. Most of the people in the restaurant were truckers, big men, good old boys, shoveling food into their mouths. Chili, steak and eggs, huge sandwiches and burgers. The smell of hot grease and meat made Luke Devereaux realise how hungry he was. Even this feels like a little bit homoerotic. The good old boys and their greasy meat.
Huge sandwiches and burgers.
Yeah, for me, this is the best part of the film, though, because it's basically Van Damme just eating a whole lot of shit. Like, he just eats and eats and eats and eats.
When the waitress returned to remove the wreckage of the 2 plates of food, she flipped out her order pad. Can I get you anything else? Coffee? Dessert? Luke studied the menu. I'd like to order 2 orders of meatloaf. She looked at him warily. Meatloaf was not generally considered dessert in this place. 2 meatloaf, she repeated, jotting it down. Anything else? A club sandwich, an order of pork chops, string beans, salad, soup, and this.
Whoa, hang on. Look, we're 165 episodes into this show, and I can't believe somebody has just ordered a salad. I don't think that's ever happened in any American film ever.
I know. It's only because it's, it's the second last thing from his...
Yeah, and he doesn't stop here. He does keep going, but still, the fact that he managed to get a salad in there is pretty impressive. I think that's cause for celebration. If I had a sound board or something, or wanted to edit this thing, I would put in a cheer. And one of those, like, whistles that go out and the paper thing rolls out.
Michelle Obama to do a speech.
Yes. So, look, it's working. Seriously, I'm not exaggerating. At least 4 pages later, he's still eating in the book. Like, he eats and eats and eats.
I feel I can finally start to relate to him.
Yes, chicken fried steak and eggs. In half a dozen pages, he has racked up, and this shows you how cheap food is in America, $200 bill. Which he can't pay, so he ends up beating the shit out of everyone in the diner. Good old boys no more.
He slammed one with a hard driving sidekick, hurling him across the room. He fit the felt of the pool table, sliding along the fairway, his head cracking into the balls neatly, racked into a triangle at one end. His hard skull acted as a pretty good cue ball. He sunk a couple of the object balls in the side of the back pockets, but the other people in the room were too busy to notice the nice break.
Yeah. That's a nice little detail, isn't it? He's like smashing the skulls of people. He's in the wrong, right? He ordered all this food and he can't pay for it.
That really threw me off because I was expecting like a fight thing, and then I'm like, okay, we're still talking about pool. It was very
he's a pool shark. Plus, people can't see this. Like, I don't highlight the book or whatever and then go from there, because we would just be... I type it out, and I don't type it out well all the time either. And so sometimes if you hear the host hesitating, they're trying to figure out... Looking at the word I've typed and trying to figure out what word I meant on the fly. So that is actually quite impressive.
But that's sticking true to novelization style, because they're probably the books with the most typos.
Yeah.
And lack of editing.
I did notice some typos in this one early on, actually.
It's really making a more authentic novelization experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now all that eating's over, I found my attention span was really waning. It was kind of like...
Food coma.
Yeah, he ate all the food, but I was the one that needed the nap. And it does get dull. Like, they meet Dr. Gregor, who he created the Unisol program, and he gives them all this exposition, like apparently in order to keep going and sort of be immortal, they need regular treatment, and this stuff like you find out about... Lundgren's been taking like muscle toughness injection things that makes him like all crazy and things, and then they get arrested, but then on the way to the jail, the Unisols attack, and there's a chase, and some buses go off a cliff, and like they want you to think Scott's dead, but we know he's not dead.
No.
It's just all like straight out dialogue from the film and action, and then and there's only so many times I can tell you about people getting shot in the head. It becomes the same-ish. But they do eventually make their way to Luke's family farm in Louisiana, born and bred. But this is what happens.
It was dark in the barn, but there was enough light for her to see that she was not Scott's only captive.
Veronica, of course.
In the corner of a stall were two elderly people, a man and a woman, both of them tied up and gagged as she was. They were Luke's parents, and Mrs. Devereaux looked at her with pleading, uncomprehending eyes. Scott pushed her to the dusty floor. "Kneel, bitch," he ordered.
Yeah, again. Really, like, it's funny, I was thinking it's so unnecessary. Like, it's so ugly and cruel and kind of just gross.
Yeah.
But then it made me think of, like, the Mark Kent Polaroids in Batman vs. Superman. And I was like, how we've evolved. So Scott is threatening to cut off Mom's ears, which, that's a low blow because mums are pretty good listeners.
Yeah. And...
Can't use a phone, but... And look, the boys, they have a bit of a punch on, or I should say a kick-off, probably, on Van Damme's case. Veronica's all tied up. Scott calls her a horrible racist slang thing, which isn't even relevant to her, and tells Luke to shoot her. He then throws a grenade at her, and Luke thinks she's dead, so he just starts kicking shit up. But in the film, it doesn't happen in the book, but Scott yells out all these moronic things, like all these one-liners while he's doing this stuff. And he does them in like a bratty kid voice. Like he goes, wanna play catch? And throws the grenade and stuff like that. And I think once your enemy starts doing that, I feel like you've already won in a lot of ways. Because you're just watching his dignity. And there wasn't a lot of it to begin with.
Yeah.
Just, this is a man who played He-Man.
I actually, now that you've said it, because like I said, I watched this movie for the first time specifically for this. And did trail off and start, drawing and playing on my phone.
Yeah.
But I do remember towards this, something pulling me out. And I think, it was him doing those weird one-liner things.
He does a couple in a row, and it's just like, what are you doing?
Got my attention for all the wrong
You are adult
reasons.
men who have this huge grudge against each other. Why are you talking like you're 5-year-olds in a schoolyard? I thought he was going to wedgie him for a moment.
What does he have to gain as well? Like, what is the Scott guy? Like, why is he doing this? It's like shooting people.
Well, I don't know. Like, I think neither book nor film really give you any indication of what level their sort of consciousness is. Like, if, like, are they having flashbacks? They think they're in a dream? I mean, Luke's not even sure if his dick's supposed to be there. So, like, you got to wonder how self-aware they are.
Do you think they could remake this?
Well, they kept making them. There was some,
really,
even in the last couple of years.
Oh, God.
They've there's lots of sequels and like lots of direct-to-video sequels and ones that have Van Damme and Lundgren in, because what else are they going to do? So I've no idea. I've not seen them. I don't know how they managed to continue to draw out this story. I know there was definitely one in because when I was looking for images for the podcast page, there was definitely one in 2012. I don't know if there's been any after that. So, that's 20 years of Unisol. Wow.
Veronica learns how to use a phone. That's one film.
Yeah, that's the whole film. Pretty much. Spin-off. So, kick, punch, until...
Luke ran out of the barn and threw himself into the air, his right leg straight out, his boot smacking square into Scott's face. The force of the blow threw him through the air and backward onto unforgiving spikes of the shredder.
Yeah, Raphael was shocked.
A dozen steel points perforated his body, puncturing him through his back and sticking out his chest and stomach, arms and thighs. Scott screamed out in pain, staring wide-eyed at the bloody points protruding from his body. "You son of a bitch!"
Yeah. Great thing to say when all that's happening. And then a brief struggle, and Luke turns the shredder on. Now, you talked about how you were looking at your phone and stuff. I saw him get impaled. I didn't see the shredder get turned on, and I almost went, oh, I should go back and watch that. That sounds exciting. But I guess I just, didn't notice, and I couldn't be bothered. So the book describes it, though. The drums turned slowly at first, but then as the engine picked up, it gained speed, the blades of the machine tearing Scott's flesh and sinew, a lot of sinew in this book, into a bloody pulp. The twisting spikes ground into him, stripping an anguished scream from his throat, a long, wild death howl, a shriek of pain and hot hatred, a scream so loud and alive with anger, it drowned out Luke's triumphant words. "I'm alive!" yelled Luke. Made me think, I don't yell out like affirm my life enough. Sometimes I think I should just go out there in the morning and yell it out. Look, 20 years ago even, this book was $12. It's kind of crazy. Bit steep. So Veronica and the folks, they're alive as well. They've got the grace to shut up about it, but they survived. Here is the ending. I'm going to read this straight from the book. And here we go. Relief flooded through him and he hugged her, embracing her passionately, emotionally. She responded avidly, pressing herself against his bruised, broken, and bloody body. Luke allowed himself a moment of respite, squeezing her tight, forgetting for a second or two the blood and the pain and all the violent death he had witnessed. Suddenly, Veronica pulled back. "Where's Scott?" Luke smiled. "He's around." There were pieces of Andrew Scott scattered all over the Devereux front yard. "How do you feel?" Luke sensed every bone, joint, muscle and sinew in his body aching. He felt as if he had been hit by a dozen trucks. He was tired and bruised, but alive. "I feel like a 50-year-old, he said. And that is the end. That's like, and then he froze, mid-laugh, and the credits rolled. Like, that really is the last line. "I feel like a 50-year-old, he said. Boom. Universal Soldier. So there you go. Wow.
That took you on more of a journey than the movie did.
Yeah, it is a universal story, isn't it? About two everyman men who,
need to shoot each other.
I like this tagline on the back. "The future has a bad attitude." Yep, sure does.
So was the film made in 92 and set in 92?
It just says present day on that slide. So I guess it was 92? You get the feeling that these guys are special. So I don't know. Yeah.
Because normally those sort of films like that are way in the future.
Yeah, too many faxes and borrowing phones to be too far in the future. But then, Back to the Future 2's got faxes in 2015.
I watch a lot of movies and always think, how different it would be if they just had a mobile. When you watch older movies. I think they're struggling now the same way, superhero movies are starting to get that annoying thing where they have to go oh, this building's empty. When they're having a massive fight.
Yeah.
Well, horror movies are having that thing phones aren't working.
There's no receipt. Yeah, I've noticed that. I did a big horror movie watch earlier in the month, actually. Caught up on some things I'd never seen. And you're 100% right. So many times they're saying, oh, there's no reception here, or...
Yeah.
They have to get rid of that at some point. Superhero movies do, and a lot of action movies do that thing where they even go the other direction, where everybody talks to each other without you seeing what they're using. Like Avengers, in that first Avengers movie, in that big battle, Hawkeye will be talking to Iron Man.
We just believe it.
They just all got earpieces or something. Yeah. And, they're not even remotely close or holding a phone. Imagine if poor old Hawkeye trying to hold a bow while holding a phone under his arm, the receiver, he's got the cord, getting caught in the string.
Hawkeye doesn't know how to use a phone either.
Couldn't do that in 1992. That's for sure. Well, unless it was a touchpad phone, and then he could shoot a series of arrows into the numbers. He probably has trick arrows which have prosthetic fingers on the end.
He's got an arrow for everything.
And he would just, shoot that. Well, why not just shoot a message directly into somebody's home?
Yeah.
If you're Hawkeye. That's something as well. So there's some good tips if anybody out there is looking at becoming a professional crime-fighting archer. I got to ask you, was the book better?
Yes. I think yes.
I think it probably was as well, actually. I think it was a little bit more engaging. I think Robert Tyne did a pretty good job, and the fact that he's written original fiction as well, and Touched by an Angel tie-ins, shows that this guy's got the chops to... God, imagine Hawkeye having to type a novel with arrows. that would be very difficult. That would take a long time.
He'd only get to use one letter once.
Or we'd have to have a custom keyboard. Maybe they could make him... S.H.I.E.L.D. could make him a large keyboard with very resilient keys.
But then I couldn't imagine Hawkeye writing anything worth reading.
Yeah, well, look, even doing a Twitter thing, that's 140 arrows unless you're prepared to go walking back and forth and picking them up and bringing them back.
Yeah.
A lot of hassle. I don't think he's a writer or a reader or of much use to the team, to be honest. So there we go. That was Universal Soldier. It's been sitting on the shelf for a while. I think I also was confusing it with Demolition Man, which I also have.
Yeah.
And that's at least funnier and probably a lot better. If I'd thought of that, we should have done Demolition Man. But Universal Soldier is off the list. We learn a lot about Van Damme and his knob. So, no reviews. That really surprised me. No one has reviewed this thing. We really were the first people to read this book.
Well... Yeah, I couldn't imagine who would be I guess we said it was all novelizations. Like, who are the people reading this and then reviewing it? But I really can't imagine someone reading this and then feeling the need to review it.
I must go to Amazon and talk about how totally radical this Universal Soldier book was.
Maybe there's nice little private forums, I think, would be more the style, because it seems like to have a niche underlying tone there.
Yeah.
I reckon we could dig a bit and we'd find some hardcore fans.
It's one of those things where there weren't even any decent publicity stills or anything. Everything from this book just looked like shit, or from the film. So yeah, not a great one. But yes, thank you everybody for listening. Please listen to our other shows. You can find everything at fruitlesspursuits.com. I host FPcast every week with Jacinta, where we rate and review movies and things. We just did Civil War on yesterday's show. We also talk about Game of Thrones and all sorts of other stuff. And you can find links to our Facebook page if you want to discuss things with us and other listeners. You can like us, you can rate and review us on iTunes. If you're a super fan, you can subscribe on Patreon and get extra episodes like Book Was Better TV. I'm going to tell Jacinta that there's Touched by an Angel books out there, and I'm very excited that, and That's So Raven. They're my white whales at the moment. So that's all really great. And of course, a huge thank you to you, Paris, for coming and joining me on this rather odd journey.
Thank you for having me. And I don't think I would have ever watched this film unless I was doing this.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that. All right. Well, was there anything else that we've missed? Anything you wanted to add?
I think I've well and truly talked enough about Universal Soldier for a lifetime.
Yeah, probably have. Tick that one off the bucket list. That's done. Yes, we won't save it for the future because the future has a bad attitude, as we've just discovered. So, thank you, and do you want to say the thing?
Catch you on the flips.
Jumanji.